Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. Today is Wednesday, November 29th, and we're happy that you're here to join us this evening. I'll open the meeting, and we'll begin with an invocation by Reverend Victoria Reed, Director of Stewardship, St. Paul's Episcopal Church.
Please join me in prayer. To the one whom leads and guides us, to the one whom calls us here for many different reasons this evening, we come before you with open hearts and minds this day. As we move into a busy season, we have recently been reminded in a time of gratitude that cannot stop, no matter how quick we move. In our moments of pause and stillness, may we listen to one another. In moments of maybe disagreement or differences of opinions, may we hear the passion and heart that lies behind it. Guide us through this season with gratitude, joy, peace, and with one another. May the town of Kernersville continue to be blessed by the movement and the decisions that are made to the benefit of those who may not be here this evening and whose voices are not raised. And those whom we speak for and on behalf of, may we do it with full hearts and gladness. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Reed. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the Thank you. You may be seated. All right, we have one public hearing and one public session tonight. If you're interested in speaking on any of the items on the agenda, there are speaker cards in the back. If you could fill out a speaker card and hand it to this table here, the town manager will get it, and then we'll recognize you under the appropriate agenda item. All right, when an agenda item is denoted as a public hearing, persons attending shall be permitted to address the Board of Aldermen regarding the item under consideration, those speaking in favor speaking first, and those against speaking second. Proponents and opponents shall each be given 20 minutes of time to speak and may choose to allow one speaker to utilize that time or choose to allocate the time amongst different speakers. In the event the proponents or opponents have not designated a speaker or speakers to represent that view, the mayor shall divide the 20 minutes by the number of speakers wishing to address the Board of Aldermen. After the opponents speak, the mayor will allow the proponents 5 minutes for rebuttal. If the proponents choose to exercise this option, the opponents will also have 5 minutes for rebuttal. In the event the proponents do not present a rebuttal, then the opponents shall be given no further time to speak. So our hearing is item 1A. Proposed financing of real property purchases located at IBM Redmond Sports Complex and 647 Beeson Road. And A1, consideration of a resolution approving a financing contract for the purchase of real property. We'll begin with the presentation by staff.
Madam Mayor and Board, you have in your packet the memo from Franz Zader, our Finance Director, regarding these two properties. The two properties, 647 Beeson Road is the last property the town just purchased, and then the Ivy Redmond Park property, that's the property the town purchased earlier this year or last year. As part of it is all we're putting up for collateral is a portion of the 52 acres where the new recreation and event center is. So we're borrowing $1 million on that. We will use that $1 million then for the road improvements on Shields Road. So we put it out. We got two banks submitted a bid, Webster Bank, Pinnacle Financial Partners. Webster Bank had the lowest interest rate, but we cannot come to an agreement on collateral. They wanted the property and then one or two more pieces of collateral, which we would not do. And so we, at that point, went to Pinnacle Financial Partners. Not a big difference in the interest rates, less than 1%. So we're recommending the board approve the resolution for a 59-month loan with Pinnacle Financial Partners. One loan being $1 million, that's for the for the park property, and the other being $233,435, and that is for the house. Be glad to answer any questions that the board may have.
This is a public hearing. I'll declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Seeing none, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the proposed financing? Seeing none, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Are there any questions of town manager?
I have no questions. I'd motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve by Alderman Thompson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Gorham. All in favor? It's unanimous. Curtis, when do you think work on the road will begin?
I'm not sure. DOT is going to be doing that road work. The plan is for DOT to do that road work when they do the widening on Union Cross. I'm not exactly sure what their time frame is to begin that work. I know they've been out, I think they've been out and marked it on Union Cross on that side. Still looking also whether or not we need to move the water line. There's a water line that runs down the south side of Shields Road. So we got some things going on there, but my guess is they probably will have it ready to go in the spring. I don't anticipate them doing it, with the winter months coming up. So it'll probably be spring of the year. That was kind of the driving force for us going in and getting the loan on the property. That way we're not trying to circumvent the LGC, but it's just a time frame there because DOT, with this particular project, we have to pay DOT up front on it. Some of the projects, if there's a grant or some aid from DOT, we can pay after, but on this one, there's not. So we're required to pay up front. So it's just kind of a time issue there. But I'm thinking it'll be spring.
It would be really nice to get this road work done before the rec center opens.
It will be, and that's kind of our goal and our plan, and that's their goal also for Union Cross Road.
And if you haven't followed this, it's a road project to widen the road near the rec center and allow turn lanes. So to reduce congestion. So right now it's a 2-lane road without turn lanes.
Yeah, and it gets, as I told the board when we were discussing it, about every afternoon at 4:30, from 4:30 to 5:30, it backs up on Shields Road, just about from the stoplight all the way now back to about Beeson Road. So we get this, it'll be a center turn lane and then a right turn lane going in if you're going east, and then a center turn lane if you're going west, which should help the flow of traffic drastically in that area.
And we're doing it in conjunction. The DOT has a project already planned for Union Cross Road, so they're adding this onto their project, but we have to pay our share for this. So the two projects will go on together in coordination.
Correct.
So it should do a lot to relieve congestion at that intersection,
We
especially
hope.
certain times of day.
Yeah, it certainly can't hurt.
Is there anything further on this item before we move on?
No, ma'am.
All right, so we're to item 2, which is the public section. Right now, we're to speakers from the floor. Is there anyone here who'd like to address the Board of Aldermen as to an issue that is not included on this agenda?
It's on the agenda, but I just want to put some back in here in section C.
I've got you for C. I've got you for item C. Okay, we're on 2A right now. We're on 2A right now. Okay, item B is consideration of a resolution claiming a lien against the real property of Congress Gardens, Inc.
As you all are aware, the board voted several months ago to demolish the old Phoenix Inn. Used to be the Dudley Hotel, then the Phoenix Inn. That has been done. We've been working with the property owner to receive payment for that. We've not received payment for it yet, so this is a resolution to place a lien against that property. So it's just out there on the books. When they sell it, the lien will show up. We already technically have a lien on it anyway, but this will just give us something else to file in the Register of Deeds office stating that. And it's for The cost of demolition was $149,258.
Okay, do I have a motion for approval?
So
So
moved,
moved.
Madam Mayor. I'm sorry.
Okay, I've got a motion by Alderman Gorham and a second by Mayor Pro Tem Apple. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, we are to item C, discussion and consideration of settlement agreement and release between the town of Kernersville and BOMA North Carolina LLC. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor and Board, I will turn the next three items, items C, D, and E, over to Mike Thielen, who is the attorney that has been representing the town in this matter.
Okay, so I'll call all three of them then. Item D, discussion and consideration of a motion to hold a public hearing to reconsider Kernersville Development Plan Case KDP 66. And E, discussion and consideration of a motion to hold a public hearing to reconsider rezoning case K 570A4. And for speakers, we've got one speaker signed up. Should I go ahead and have them go first or after you've presented?
I think it's fine to go after the presentation, perhaps. That might make sense.
Is that all right with you, Harry? All right. Go
Thank you,
ahead,
Madam
Mr.
Mayor.
Thielen.
I'll start just by explaining what what the resolution is for tonight. It is a resolution for approval of a settlement agreement that is in your agenda packets, as well as to reconsider a land use plan amendment and a reconsider a rezoning, both of which were denied back in July by the board. This is not the rezoning or the land use plan amendment hearing itself. This is simply whether to reconsider those items in the December 12th Board of Aldermen hearing, where there will be a public hearing if the vote is to approve the resolution and to reconsider them in December. I'll start with a brief discussion of how we got here and then where, I guess, where the resolution lies. This property is known as Caleb's Creek, as the board well knows. This has been zoned since 2016 as a conditional zoning district. There have been a number of development plans approved for, and there's been construction pursuant to that 2016 conditional zoning plan. Since about 2021 and going into 2022, there developed some disputes, I'll call them, for lack of a better word, between the town staff and the developer with regard to interpretations over that 2016 zoning plan, how to apply it, and perhaps how not to apply it in certain ways, which ended up in an effort to rezone the property, which came before this board in 2023 in July. And that rezoning and land use plan amendment to render the rezoning consistent with the land use plan for the town was denied back in July of 2023 of this year. The developer, the property owner, BOMA, BOMA North Carolina LLC, filed suit in federal court against the town in September of this year. And in about October of this year, shortly after filing of suit, the federal court ordered this litigation into a mediation, and specifically into a judicial mediation before a federal magistrate judge. Sometimes mediations can go to a private mediator between parties. That's not unusual. But this particular mediation went into the chambers of a federal district court, a magistrate judge. So that mediation was ordered for November 15th. It was held on November 15th, and it continued for a number of days thereafter between the town staff and between the developer and property owner, BOMA North Carolina LLC. What came out of that, and I guess I'll go back and mention the lawsuit briefly. The lawsuit contains 10 claims against the town. There are a number of claims relating to the rezoning and relating to other town actions. There were claims to revive and include to order the rezoning from 2023 that was denied, and then also for monetary damages against the town. The monetary damages aren't specified in a complaint. They do not have to be, but they were claimed to be significant against the town by BOMA. As a result of the order into mediation, and as a result into order, or a result of the mediation, before the federal magistrate judge, town staff, and the property owners, BOMA, worked essentially off of that 2023 rezoning proposal as a starting point and moved to find a middle ground, or to find a ground that both the property owner, BOMA, and the town staff believed that the town could live with, and in fact could even benefit from, coming from that 23 starting point. After many, many days of settlement effort between the town staff and BOMA, North Carolina, we believe that we've reached what is a sound offer of resolution between the town and BOMA. And in fact, we believe, and by we, I believe, I can say I and the town staff believe that it is a settlement that is a rezoning that is beneficial to the town, is beneficial in a way that perhaps exceeds the rezoning that was proposed back in July of 2023. It also includes upon, if the town chooses to rezone the property, again, that's not what we're here to hear tonight, but if the town chooses to rezone in the way that the town staff has recommended, that the town rezone coming out of that judicial settlement conference, then the lawsuit will be dismissed, and BOMA's lawsuit goes away, and the town then has rezoned the property in a way that, again, is advantageous from that July 2023 proposal. It's under the supervision of the federal court, so the lawsuit is still pending, and it will pend unless and until the rezoning is granted that the parties have agreed to in principle. And the court retains supervision over, including the magistrate judge, still retains jurisdiction and supervision over the matter and over the settlement conference and the settlement efforts in particular. So before you tonight is a proposed settlement agreement that has been drafted and negotiated between the town staff and the property owners, BOMA, and also is a resolution to reconsider on December 12th in the Aldermen hearing, after public hearing, the rezoning case that has now been presented, and the conditions of which are attached to the settlement agreement. So again, it's not a reconsideration of that same rezoning that was denied in 2023. It has been amended and revised in a way that the town and BOMA have agreed upon in principle, the town staff have agreed upon in principle, and is advantageous from that July 2023 denied rezoning. So it is a different rezoning. And so before you is a resolution whether to reconsider that on December 12th along with the land use plan amendment. Town staff they have endorsed and recommended the adoption of the resolution. They have, and you'll find that, as well as both the reconsideration of the rezoning and the reconsideration of the land use plan amendment, and also they have endorsed the adoption of the resolution as to the settlement agreement, all of which are before you tonight. So with that, I'm happy to open the floor to any questions.
For that, let's hear from Harry Davis. If you could restate your name and your address for the clerk, please.
Good evening. My name is Harry Davis. I live at 1676 Pine Tree Lane, basically right in the middle of the proposed Caleb's Creek. I think you did a good job of explaining that. I kind of understand some basic stuff. I've watched enough Law and Order, I guess, to understand some terms, but that, if you reconsider this, that's going to be less than 2 weeks for a lot of people that weren't here to try to absorb and figure out the new rezoning that's going on and that's going to be voted on. That seems kind of quick. I'm smart enough to know, I guess it's best for everybody. And when I say everybody, the developers, the town, the taxpayers. I guess technically I'm not a taxpayer yet per se. I have my property up in an annex, but if they don't have to go to court, but developer's not doing what they say they're going to do, meeting the things they're supposed to do, fixing any notice of violations that are still outstanding, maybe they don't deserve the courtesy of this expedited rezoning hearing. I'm trying to keep everything, not emotional about it, not like I'm gonna weep, I'm more mad. Luckily, I haven't had some of the issues that some of the other homeowners have had per se. But when you said there's a rezoning issue, there are changes to the rezoning. Are those changes that the developers are making as far as density and housing type, or is it just stipulations that have been agreed upon by the town for the developers to have to meet?
Address all your questions to us and we'll cover.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Well, I was under the impression that the rezoning hasn't changed per se from the developer side. It's more of maybe some inclusive language, I don't know if that's the right term, that holds them more accountable. Is that accurate?
Ask all your questions, so we'll handle them all at once.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I'll just leave it at, go ahead there. There you go.
Okay.
And I believe everybody's got the best interest, but we, only speaking for myself, we have believed in this for a long time, and we are stuck with nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Swisher or Mr. Thielen, can you address the differences perhaps in the July rezoning or?
I mean, we could probably get into that on December 12th.
Mayor and Board, I think that's more of an issue with the rezoning conditions, which is not before you tonight.
But the settlement agreement has those conditions attached to it.
It
Right.
does, but the rezoning is really where those conditions go into effect. But as a more broad answer to Mr. Davis's questions, it doesn't add any density to the project from what was proposed in 2023 in the plan that was turned down. It does not add any density. In fact, it probably makes it less dense in the sense that multifamily is restricted to one area, whereas in the 2023 plan, it could go in multiple areas. And it does, as Mr. Davis said, it does tighten up some deadlines and some things on the developer to force them to do A before they can do B, basically. I don't think it changes anything else in the 2023 plan really. It does add some amenity areas to the plan that were not in the 2023 plan. I think it gets probably 3 acres more. Is that about right? 3 or 4 more acres of amenity space and so forth. But that's kind of a broad overview, and I think we'll get into more detail about the actual conditions at the rezoning hearing.
And I would add, Madam Mayor, the reason that the conditions, I know it's somewhat confusing procedurally, but the reason the conditions are part of the settlement is that the parties did not want any confusion with regard to what conditions would be considered on December 12th. So while they are part of the settlement agreement, it's not as if the approval here renders that an approval of the conditions themselves. It means that those are the conditions that will be before the board on December 12th, if the settlement agreement is approved and the reconsiderations are granted pursuant to the resolution.
If you come forward, and state your name and your address.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor and the Aldermen, my wife and I did not sign up to talk because we were not sure what BOMA was going to put forth. To our understanding, this 2023 that you all are talking about was turned down by you all, the Board of Aldermen. And BOMA, in good faith, has done nothing for us at Caleb's Creek. And I don't know what makes the town of Kernersville think if you give way to their suit against the town of Kernersville, what is going to make them do for us, the taxpayers for the town of Kernersville, and the people that voted for you all, the aldermen and mayor? What makes you think they're going to do what they say? They're not. They're an unscrupulous company. And that's what I would like to say. And I don't know if my wife would like to speak also, but this company is not to be trusted.
We can't have any kind of personal attacks even against a business.
Okay.
So, could you give your name and address for the record, because the town clerk has.
Yeah, I'm Gary Holsworth, 1665 Cooper's Hawk Drive.
Mr. Clerk, do you need him to spell his last name for you, since he doesn't have a speaker card, or do you know it?
That would be good, thank you.
Last name is spelled Holzworth, and I apologize for making a talk against the company.
It's no problem, and you've spoken before, but we just didn't have your spelling of your name in front of us. Thank you for your comments.
And
Okay.
I think my wife would like to speak.
Well, I don't know that I can allow it because you're speaking to the
Okay.
conditions. I think instead of the settlement agreement. Mr. Thielen, please advise me here.
I think that's true. I think we're talking specifically about whether to reconsider and then whether to approve the settlement agreement, and then the discussions about the project itself, the conditions themselves would be appropriate for December 12th.
Okay, so this is just the settlement agreement. And the conditions that would be included in the rezoning are attached as part of this document that is available online as part of the agenda items from the meeting. So if you scroll down, it starts on page 9. It looks like it's a 17-page document. So that would be the conditions, as Mr. Thielen has said, that start with the 2023 plan that was turned down but have been modified. So that would be the modified conditions. And then the clarification by Mr. Swisher about amenity areas and density was an excellent clarification. All right, is there anything further, questions or comments by staff?
And I think we will load the conditions onto the agenda for December 12th. They will be loaded on, I think, tomorrow. Is that correct? Be the same conditions, but it'll just be on the rezoning case itself if the citizens would like to go see it there. Ms. Garner's prepared a memo that outlines basically the new conditions, kind of gives a rationale for those conditions, and then it compiles it all into what you have here with the settlement agreement.
So the memo would give some information as to how this is different than the
Yes,
proposed
ma'am.
rezoning that was turned down in July.
Correct.
Perhaps when that's loaded tomorrow, that will be of some help. But that's a public meeting. It's going to be on the 12th of December, and everybody is welcome to attend. All right. Is there anything further on this? So do we vote on all three together then? Separate votes, maybe?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think you have a resolution in front of you because these are, even though they're separate agenda items, they are inextricably intertwined among all three. So there is a resolution that a proper motion would be to adopt that resolution or to deny that resolution. But the resolution itself is both applicable to the reconsideration of the rezoning case and the land use plan amendment, and to approve the settlement agreement as drafted and negotiated and as pending in the federal court.
Okay, so that is listed, that's highlighted under item E. Resolution 2023, and there's a dash and a blank because our clerk will assign it a specific number in order of adoption of resolution, so that will be known after this meeting what that specific subnumber is. Settlement agreement and reconsider KDP 66 and K570A4. Do I have a motion?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the proposed resolution by the town of Kernersville to approve the settlement agreement and release between Bowman, North Carolina LLC and the town of Kernersville, and for the reconsideration of development plan case KDP 66 and rezoning case K 570.A4.
I have a motion by Alderman Gorham, a second by Alderman Thompson. All in favor? It's unanimous.
Madam Mayor, I do have a question I wanted to ask. Curtis, when this goes online tomorrow or so, will the residents have an opportunity then, if I'm understanding you, they'll have an opportunity to review the conditions in detail or the changes
Yes, sir.
well in advance of the December 12th meeting?
Yes, sir. And it's been posted in accordance with how we post public hearings and public notices for all of the rezonings. So they'll have the 2 weeks that's required by state law, and it will be, the signs already went up. The signs went up Monday, 2 weeks about the public hearing, and then the adjacent property owner letters have been mailed out as well. But when it's posted tomorrow, they will have the opportunity to review the memo that shows the changes in the conditions, new conditions that have been added to help protect the neighbors, help force the developer to do what they say they'll do, and it will outline the changes, and then it will show all of the conditions for the case in their entirety.
Will these fine folks who've asked questions tonight about the changes in the conditions have an opportunity to ask questions to Catherine or someone, Ms. Garner or someone, before the December 12th meeting for clarification?
Certainly.
Okay.
Yes, they can contact Ms. Garner. They can contact myself. I'll probably refer them to Ms. Garner. But yes, they'll have plenty of opportunity, and then it will be a public hearing. It will be a public hearing, just like all of the other public hearings we have for rezonings at the December 12th meeting, where they have 20 minutes for those in favor, 20 minutes for those opposed, and then have the rebuttal time as well.
Okay. Does everyone know how you can click on and access that tomorrow then? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Apple. All right, moving on to the next agenda item. It's a resolution detailing financing terms and authorizing a financing contract for the purchase of equipment. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor and Board, you have in your packet the memo from Franz Ader to myself regarding the equipment financing. This is all of the equipment that was approved in the fiscal year 23-24 budget. We have approximately $1,548,000 worth of equipment for 59 months, and we have $1.2 million worth of equipment for 10 years. So basically a 5-year term and then a 10-year term. So it is two different proposals that go out for bid. We received 3 bids back, and Bank of America was the lowest on both of those, 4.3141% for the 59-month loan and 4.4254% for the 10-year term. So we're recommending approval of financing with Bank of America for those 2 terms.
Okay, are there any questions, or do I have a motion for approval? Motion by Alderman Thompson,
Second.
second by Alderman Gorham. All in favor? It's unanimous. All right, item G, discussion and consideration of additional funding for the Visitor Center at Kernersville.
Madam Mayor and Board, you have in your packet a memo from me to each of you regarding some additional funding for post-construction expenses at the Visitor Center. As you all know, the town will own the building and the land there that the building is on. The town contributed initially $750,000 toward the cost of construction of the building, which at the time, I think everybody thought the building would be about $1.5 million, so we would have about half of the expenses of construction. The building ended up being closer to $3 million than $1.5 million, as is common with everything that's been built in the last 3 or 4 years. So the folly ended up with about 2.5 in their part, somewhere in there, 2.25, and the town still had the 750 because the way the original agreement was, we put in 750 and then anything over for the cost of construction. So it's what you have before you and I think everyone has spoken to representatives of the Folly to get a clear idea of what they're asking for. They're asking for $152,200 roughly, to cover some items, again, post-construction expenses. And these items are items that are found in basically all other town-owned buildings. It's the audio-visual, which we have in the room here. It's some door access control, data network and Wi-Fi, some surveillance cameras, remote security, things like that. So it is a town building. Again, the town owns the building and we lease it to the visitor center. So those items are things that we have in other town-owned buildings. As you all are aware, we assumed operations of the Botanical Garden. Earlier this year, we went in and added some of these items already to the Botanical Garden. They will be in most all of our new buildings. They'll be standard in the Parks and Rec Event Center, the expansion of Beeson's Crossroads Fire Station. So we're fine. Staff recommends adding these items because it's something that if something happens and the Folly no longer operates a visitor center, we would go in and add these items basically so that it's compatible with other town buildings. I checked in the memo, it said that our hope would be to pay it out of the occupancy tax fund. We could transfer that money to the Folly. They are eligible for occupancy tax funds. I looked, we do have enough in the balance of the occupancy tax fund to cover the $152,000, so it won't impact the general fund at all. That's what the occupancy tax fund is earmarked for, is for visitor centers, tourist destinations, you know, anything, the old saying goes, put heads on beds. So that's kind of the visitor center is prime use for that, so there wouldn't be any trouble to earmark the money for the Folly to use for that. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have. I know there's some folks here with the Folly Foundation that have worked on the construction of the building as well that can answer anything if you have some specific questions about one of the items they're looking at adding.
Mr. Swisher, I've mentioned it before, but does the funding allocation include security cameras that could be linked in real time to the Kernersville Real-Time Crime Center? I think that's important given the proximity to Main Street.
I think on this, I think one of the remote security cameras, I think would be able to go into that. We would just have to give them the box. There's a box that goes in where they can plug in, and then it would go into our real-time crime center. So that, as far as I know, it would work to do that.
Okay, if it's not already included in this cost estimate, and it would be a minimal cost if there.
Certainly.
It's certainly, I think it's like just a few $100s, right?
Yeah.
500. So I would like that also to be included.
Yeah, we would certainly.
Not detract from anything they've planned.
Certainly, and if it's not in here, is what we would do. We can purchase the box through the PD, and then just go down and plug it in for them.
Okay, I think that's important for crime prevention and crime resolution, crime investigations, and for the Folly as well.
Agreed.
Okay. All right. Did anyone from the Folly want to present anything, or are you just here to answer questions? All right. Do I have a motion? Motion to approve by Alderman Thompson.
Second.
Second by Alderman Penix. All in favor? All opposed? All right. Keith, have you got 4 in favor, 1 opposed? Okay. All right. When? I guess soon. Construction to be finished in December? And an opening later this spring. Okay, so it's final. April 1st. Okay, I've been reluctant to say. April 1st, we'll have a big party at the Folly. So mark your calendars. And the 144th anniversary and the opening of the Visitor Center. What a great day. Fantastic. Thank you all on the board and on the management team for the Folly for all the work that you've put into the Visitor Center and all the other things over the years. My family enjoyed touring this Christmas already and seeing the beautiful decorations. So we appreciate all you do and all the support of the civic organizations that support those efforts as well. Thank you. All right. We are now to the briefing on the December 12th meeting agenda. Mr. Swisher?
Madam Mayor, you have, looks like 5, 6, 7 public hearings. Having to count them there as I went down. The first two are reconsiderations of the Kernersville Development Plan for Caleb's Creek, and the second one is the reconsideration of the rezoning. The third public hearing is a contiguous annexation petition filed by property owners at 1825, 1827, and 1831 Highway 66 South, containing 8.6 acres, more or less. Fourth public hearing is the Kernersville Development Plan for that annexation. And then you have the rezoning that goes along with the annexation in the Kernersville Development Plan for that particular piece of property. Item F and G, it looks like, is annexation for right at 4 acres by the Piedmont Triad Regional Council. Is for property located on 1385 Cruise Farm Road. Are they adding a new building, Catherine, or expanding their current building?
They've purchased the church that's located on that property for some expansion of their operations and continuing the church operations.
Okay, so that's what that's for. Item F and G, both related to that. Public session, there is one item in the public session. It is for the acceptance of a bid for the demolition of a building located at 511 Club Road. That is the house there on Club Road that the board voted a couple months ago to take bids to demolish. We'll have those bids loaded up for you by December the 12th. And then the consent agenda is the resolution declaring the badge and weapon of Matt Long as surplus so that he can be given that upon retirement. And then under the town manager's report, prohibiting parking, there's a resolution or an ordinance to prohibit parking on a portion of Southern Street. Southern Street is the street that leads down to Pope Park. We've had some folks parking on it right there at the Greenway, and they blocked some folks getting in and out of their driveway, and also us getting vehicles in. So we need to prohibit it as you get closer to the Greenway in the park. At some point in time, we'll have a parking lot there in the park itself. It'll be open where they can go in and park. But right now, that's not the case, and so it's causes some issues with them parking at the end there. And that is all for the December 12th.
Okay, would you like to cover anything from December 4th about like maybe the meeting procedure? Some of it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, I think on the December 5th meeting, the organizational meeting, you'll have the acceptance of the elections results, and all of this is pretty standard across the board. After every election, oaths of office will be administered to you all. Have an election of the mayor pro tem, then appointments to the committees. I think there's about 6 committees that we have representatives appointed to, and then you'll have resolutions setting the policies for the organization and operation of the board. I think there's 6, 7 of those maybe. Again, it's all pretty much standard from every 2 years once an election's held.
I think item 6A, I'm not sure if you've had a chance to look at revising it, but we'll need to revise it as to the meeting times and the meeting content, because we kind of try to see how it would work. We tried for the past 2 years kind of changing the formats of the meetings to spread the agenda items out and not have them go so long. And so I think that we made kind of some temporary changes in that procedurally, and maybe we need to make them more permanent.
Yeah, we'll look at that resolution and make sure we have it up to date with the current procedures.
Okay, and then the reason for the acceptance of the election results is then it allows the town to search if, WXIA wants to know, what happened in an election, several years ago. That's come up sometimes when someone's passed away and they're trying to do like a life history of that person under short notice, so we don't have to get that information from the Board of Elections that may or may not choose to keep certain information available online, and it may not be as timely accessible to the town. Let's see. questions about any of these two agendas? All right. Town manager's report, do you have anything this evening?
I don't have anything else, just remind everyone of the star lighting and the tree lighting that will take place Saturday starting around 5:30, 5:45.
So is the lighting of the star on top of the Penix building going to be at 5:45?
5:45 to 6, somewhere in there, isn't it, Ernie? 5:30.
Come forward so everyone can hear you, because they can't hear you if they're watching on YouTube.
So the events go as follows. 5:30, we're lighting the star on top of the Penix building. 6 o'clock starts the tree lighting. We're lighting the tree, actually lighting the entire tree at 6:30. Then you've got the tours at the garden, you've got the carol bells at the depot, and you got ice skating at the museum throughout the night.
So the town manager reminded me of the weather forecast this weekend.
Right now, it looks like we have 0 rain on Saturday night.
It's improved tremendously since when I talked to you, so.
Okay, perfect.
So,
If people
Christmas
are,
miracle.
hopefully, if people are concerned about weather, is there a way to get an update, or does it go on no matter what, or?
It's going to go on no matter what, rain or
Okay.
shine. Yeah,
All right, thank you.
you're welcome.
Anything further?
I got a question.
Yes.
Y'all got that tree tied down real good where it won't blow over?
We hope so. There's a big square weight in the middle of it.
Just
Pretty
making
big
sure.
ratchet straps running from the top to the bottom, and so far it's held up. We've not went chasing pieces of it, but we hope it doesn't do like the one at the White House did the other day.
Thank you, Curtis.
We think we can probably fasten it down a little better than they did.
All right, anything else to report?
No, ma'am.
All right, do we have anything from Mr. Powell?
Just a motion for closed session. Yes.
Okay. All right. Matters to be presented by the mayor and board of aldermen. Mr. Penix, what would you like to present this evening? Thank you. Mr. Gorham?
Negative, nothing.
Thank you. Mr. Apple, welcome back.
I have nothing, thank you. It's wonderful to be back. Thank you.
Mr. Barrow?
I have a couple of things. First of all, I'd like to remind Ernie about the Kernersville pool. He's working on it. The other thing is, somebody contacted me that lives on Manorwood Drive, and they said that cars were just flying up and down that road, and they wanted to know if everybody agreed, could they put up some devices, which would be humps in the road. And if we could figure that out between the police and the town, what we can and can't do over there. They seem to be upset about it.
In the past, when folks have came in, we have not recommended installing speed bumps, because of the damage they do to the town vehicles as well as other vehicles. And the fact they really don't slow anybody down. They slow down right before they get to the speed bump, and then they make up for it when they cross it. And in fact, the only area in town that had them was Doe Run. And when we repaved the road in Doe Run, we didn't replace them. And we've not heard any complaints since then. It's what we can do. We can go out and do some speed monitoring and some speed, some traffic citations maybe for speeding. Do that, and that'll help slow them down if we can do
Be
that.
good. I'll give you the name of
Okay.
the rabble rouser down there that
Yeah, and
contacted me.
Yeah, and we'll put it on the list. PD's got a list of neighborhoods to go to. And it's what we'll do, we'll put it on the list and we'll go back in there periodically. And that usually, once you catch them once or maybe twice, in some cases they don't learn the first time, they usually will learn the second time.
It'll work good. It's been that way ever since Clint moved out,
Yeah, Clint kept them slowed down because his car was there, so.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
but yeah, we'll look into doing that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Thompson?
No, ma'am, nothing, thanks.
I have one business matter. Several months ago, the Board of Aldermen looked at crosswalks that potentially could be improved. We were going to work with the NCDOT, because some of those are on DOT roads, the intersection of Cherry Street, Oakhurst, the intersection of Cherry Street and Mountain, Salisbury Street, crossing over to the gardens, the Kernersville Brewing Company, and Giada's crosswalk, and 2 crosswalks relating to Nelson at Bodenhammer, and Nelson at Piney Grove. And I had a citizen today ask me about another crosswalk that I had thought about bringing to the board that night, but there just didn't seem as much interest in using this crosswalk. And with the Greenway, and with the pathway from Lake Drive into Branchwood, people are going from that area and then crossing at the crosswalk there at Kernersville Elementary School and 4th of July Park. And the question posed to me today is, could the town, install something like, the button that lights up, it's a walk, and maybe something like that to make that area a little safer for crossing. So I'd like to include that on the list of the crosswalks across NCDOT roads that we're considering improvements for, to see what possibilities are out there.
And is it at the school or at the park?
It's at the park.
Okay, coming out of Branchwood, crossing over into the park.
Yes, they were
Okay.
saying they walk children to school and they cross there. They live in Branchwood, walk children to school and cross there and go to school. And I had seen people cross there with children in the past, but I wasn't aware of any currently doing it.
It does get a lot of use. It sees more use in the summertime, obviously when it's nicer weather. But I've noticed a lot of use of it. As you mentioned, there's a lot of folks that will come up from Lake Drive, and now that you can take the little cut through in the new development off of Lake Drive over in Branchwood, and then they'll go straight up the road in Branchwood and cross over to go to the park. There's a lot of folks that will use that cut through coming from the YMCA going to the park also, so that they don't have to get on Mountain Street. So, it gets more use than what you would think. So, yeah, we'll add it to it.
The other thing is related to that. It seems like since that cut through is that pedestrian walkway is designed for the use it's being used for, but so popular. Back to something Chris Thompson and I were talking about the Macy Lake subdivision. There was land set aside and plans for a greenway back before we were given Pope Park. So maybe it seems like it feels like a long way for people from Branchwood to walk all the way down Lake Drive and Oakhurst. They're not necessarily very pedestrian-friendly roads anyway. They ought to be, but they just, with the parking on the street and lack of sidewalks, they aren't. So it might be worth revisiting having the greenway go on a spur up to maybe some point that was convenient towards the old lake, that you could maybe walk across from Branchwood across onto Lake Drive and then catch a greenway connection that's closer than going down all the way to Oakhurst.
And Ernie and I have talked about something similar to that. We've talked about looking at doing a walkway all the way around the park. It wouldn't be asphalt. It would be, just some type of pea gravel or sand rock, which would get up to Lake Drive.
I think that's a good idea, and I also think it's a good idea not to be paved, because we may need to reconfigure it, like we have had to move the cross-country track quite a bit, depending on what's going on for development at Pope Park. We wouldn't want to be locked into place as to the possibilities for that park.
And it's probably, Ernie, 50, 60% in there now, the kind of farm road around Pope Park. Yeah. So we can probably, and we've talked about looking at it in the spring, go in and kind of smooth that out and clean it up a little bit. I don't know how far up it gets as far as Lake Drive, but I think our property goes all the way to Lake Drive. So we could certainly look at that, and it may just be a matter of kind of smoothing that out and cleaning it up a little bit, so that folks can come off the Greenway and go up, or like you said, someone on Lake Drive could just go up to Lake Drive there at the connection and come down it.
It could also benefit, you could come from Susanna down the walkway there. I'm not sure, I haven't been on it in a while, I don't know how well it's maintained right now, but there is that pedestrian connection from Susanna down to the old lake.
Oh, it's in good shape.
It is.
Yeah.
You've been on it recently? And then could cross over and get on the Greenway closer,
You could.
with your bike riding or whatever.
Yep.
Do you remember, where that land was that could be used for? Yes. Could you
Yeah.
hear him without the mic?
He did, and we eliminated that connection because we didn't own the property. We had to get some property from a property owner that we couldn't get, so we eliminated that connection over to Maxine. But now with the town owning all of Pope Park, we don't need the connection to Maxine, we would just go up to Lake Drive.
That'd probably work pretty well, you think? It may be that, I don't know who owns that property, so it may be impossible still to get, but the Greenway is so popular, it may be that attitude might have changed.
I think you'll probably stand a better chance of going up to Lake Drive.
Okay. Fair. All right, and then to remind everybody about the Christmas parade on Sunday at 2:30 on the usual route, Mountain Street. All right, is there any further business before the board this evening? Seeing none, could I have a motion for a closed session? Oh,
Yes,
wait a
Madam
minute.
Mayor.
Let me rephrase that. Is there any business before the board before we go into closed session this evening? When we go into closed session, we always could be subject to taking action once we leave the closed session. So I don't know that we would this time. I don't know that we wouldn't, but it would be back on YouTube, or all can wait around if you are interested. So could I have a motion for closed session?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A3, I move that the board go into closed session to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged and pursuant to A5 regarding a contract concerning the purchase of real property.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Did you vote?
Oh, yes.
It's unanimous.
I got carried away with my motion.
This meeting is now in closed session. Thank you. Welcome back to the regular session of the Kernersville Board of Aldermen. Is there any further business before the board this evening? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Got a motion by Alderman Thompson,
Second.
second by Alderman Gorham. All in favor? It's unanimous. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.